All right, so I should back up. What I should actually try to do before I make this list of numbers is try to factor. So what I'm going to do is start my factoring, which is a GCF, and when I look, I do notice I can factor an x out of all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, take that x out, and then I'm going to really space this over. Then I'm left with x cubed plus 6x squared plus 6x minus 4. So from there, with this part, since there are 4 terms, I would try the grouping method. So again, just covering this up, I'd group the first 2 and the last 2, and I would ask myself, is there a GCF here? And I can factor out an x squared and get x plus 6, which, if you remember, again, I need another x plus 6 here. And so I'd ask myself, what times x is 6x, which is 6. But when 6 goes and distributes to the 6, I don't get here. So this is not factorable. All right? So, and I realize I'm erasing and it smears it all. What I would need to do is come up with a list of numbers, something that I would try to factor for this part, okay? This is what I'm working with, not this anymore. So I would take factors of -4, which, remember, we always have a positive and negative version, would be 1, 2, and 4. And then I would take factors of the number in front, 1. So that's just going to be positive and -1. And then I would make this fraction. And again, this would be the numerator, and this would be the denominator. So I'd have 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 4 over 1, which in the end is just 1, 2, and 4, but a positive and negative version of all of these. So somewhere in this list is going to be a number that works. So what I've done, and maybe you can see it here, is I was just testing it out, but -2 is going to work, all right? You could always, again, for sake of sakes, go to your calculator and just double check which one works so you don't have to test one and find one that works, but I'm going to tell you which one works. Okay? So with -2 working, again, this is what I'm trying to factor, not this. I've already started this, so this is what I'm working with. I'll put 1, 6, 6, and -4. And then just going through this, drop the 1, start multiplying, add them up, multiply again, get -8, add these up, multiply again, 4, add them up, and I get 0, which again is what I want. So from here, this is the constant, this is an x squared. So I want to try to take this and factor it. And so with 3 terms, I would try to make the x. So factors of -2, that would get me to 4. Whoops, sorry, you can't see that. Factors of -2x, that would get me -2x squared, that would get me to 4x. You're going to see that actually this is not factorable. So again, I said this was going to be our challenge problem. So when this isn't factorable, this is where I've kind of gotten stuck, I still need to find the zeros from here, so I do the quadratic formula. So A is 1, and B is 4, and C is -2. So it goes x equals opposite of B, plus or minus a big square root. I'm going to square this number, B squared, minus 4 times A and C. And then all of that is over 2 times A, so 2. And then from there, what I do is I go inside here, and order of operations would say I multiply first, so that gives me -8. And then 16 take away -8 is actually 24. Now, for sake of good answers and for your capstone, the expectation is that you would try to simplify this radical, and it has factors of 4 and 6. And so the better answer would be to now have the square root of 4 is a 2, with the square root of 6 over 2, which is pretty good. But then I look for that factoring triangle, and I can divide all of these by 2. And then I would just have a 1 in the denominator, which I don't need. So from here, what I want to do is, this doesn't really help me with a graph. I do want to just type this into my calculator and see what those are as decimals. So I'm just typing in -2 plus, well, maybe, the square root of 6. Okay, and I get about 0.45. And then I would do this again, but with the subtraction. So when I do that, I get about negative 4.45. So let's talk about the zeros. So the zeros are, before we do anything, let's see. So there's the one that we tested, negative 2. I would need a factor to go with it, which is x plus 2. Remember, I'm going to have 4 answers. Another answer was from here. This was a GCF factor. So what would make that 0 is 0. Here's its factor, right? And then my other 2 answers come from here. So I am going to write both the decimal versions down. But the better technical answer is this. And this all came from the fact that I couldn't factor this anymore, so this is as factorable as it got. So as far as factored form, I've got this, this, and this, and here are all my zeros. And every answer shows up once, so every answer is going to cross. These are different numbers, okay? Well, they're different numbers. So going to my graph, here's negative 2, here's 0. There's about 0.45 maybe, and then here's negative 4.45. And again, I'm going to remember the shape, that it's some type of bumpy U. Again, this was a tough problem. But on the left side, it's rising to the left. On the right side, it's rising to the right. And now I'm going to go left to right, connect the dots. And again, these are all going to cross. So I'm going to cross through. I'm going to have it turn to get to here. Then I'm going to have it turn to get to here, and then I'll have it turn to get to here. You can put the turns wherever you want. And if we take a look at the actual graph, you can see, there you go. And that is it. Those are our notes that we did in class for week 4.